What's going on, guys? I'm Tim Kelly. He's Anthony SanFilippo. This is Phillies Stoplight here from Dodger Stadium.
And it is the final Red October special edition of the Stoplight, brought to you by Wapner Newman. Or are they over there?
Yeah, I think they're over there.
They're on one side of the screen. I think they're in front of me, actually. Philadelphia's personal injury attorneys.
So, Anthony, Game 4 was a great baseball game. If you had no rooting interest in any of these teams, I'm sure it was a pleasure for people to sit back and watch. It was not a pleasure to write the post-game story, the recap, I can tell you that, because down to the last second, you didn't know what was going to happen. And ultimately, I don't think anyone could have predicted how that last moment played out with the ball's hit back, Pattison breaks his bat, hit back to Ryan Kerkering. It looks like he's going to have a play at first. He bobbles the ball a little bit, but still had more than enough time to throw to first base. Ultimately, got rattled by bobbling the ball a little bit, throws home, and it's an errant throw. I don't know even if it was a perfect throw, if it would have mattered. And that's how the Phillies season ends.
It may be, Tim, I'm trying to think of heartbreak in Philadelphia sports postseasons where this would rank on a way to lose.
Rondé Barber's the only bigger one.
Yeah, well, but even that, they lost 27-10 in that game, right? So yeah, they shouldn't have lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the last game at the Vet. I get it, and that interception was the moment where you knew that they weren't going to win the game.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the worst way. I mean, this might be the worst way to actually be eliminated.
Right, because even on the Ryan Howard play, it was bad because it ended the game and he got injured, but it was like a routine play.
Right.
This was, you see the ball hit, and it's like, oh, this is going another inning. He's got a chance. Not even a chance. Even once he bobbled the ball, had ample time. It wouldn't have even been a close play at first base. And I don't want to, there's a fine line here. I don't want to bury Ryan Kerkering because there's plenty of other factors that went into the Phillies losing this game. But this is a major leagues, and that was a play that 100 times out of 100 needs to be made, and it wasn't.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And look, he beat himself up about it. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he was the last person in the clubhouse, still in full uniform. He was emotional the entire time. Every one of his teammates came up to him, hugged him, had a conversation with him. A lot of the veterans. We saw Nick Castellanos walk him off the field, and Nick said he didn't want him to be alone in the moment, and that's why he did it. But even in the clubhouse, I personally saw Matt Strom have a long conversation with him, and Max Kepler had a long conversation, and Taijuan Walker. A lot of guys just went over to him and just consoled him. And I know Rob Thompson talked about doing the same thing. And so you feel for him as on the human level, but you're right, on a baseball level, take the human element out of it, You got to make that play, man. You cannot make that mistake. It was the last mistake in the game, and there were several that cost the Phillies, but it was the one that people will never forget because it's how the season ended on that play. I guarantee you, and maybe I'm missing something, maybe I'm forgetting something. I mean, there was a lot of last-minute plays, Joe Carter's home run, the whatchamacallit shot to beat the Sixers by Toronto.
Kawhi Leonard
shot.
Might still be the worst.
Yeah, I mean, those were plays that were made by the other team's players. This was a mistake. This is Buckner.
I said the double doink. Buckner's in the World Series, so I guess you can say it's not quite that level. But for the Phillies' history, it's just. Cody Parkey never really recovered after the double doink, and that really wasn't even his fault. It was just a bad kick. But in this case, everything can be said right here afterwards, and nobody from a human perspective is rooting for Ryan Kerkering's career to go spiraling. But there is a reality historically that when plays like this have happened to players, it's very difficult, even if you try your hardest, for it not to define your play. I mean, the one I would compare it to, even though this wasn't the same type of blunder, Brad Lidge closed out the 2008 World Series for the Phillies. If you ask people nationally what moment they think of Brad Lidge's career for still, it's Albert Pujols' home run. And I think Ryan Kerkering is still a young reliever, controllable. I would imagine he'll be back next season, and he'll probably have a good season. But I don't know what you can do short of closing out a World Series or something like that where this doesn't become the defining moment of your career.
Well, baseball has a way of of having moments that allow a player to also get past their adversity, right? And so maybe there is something down the line for Orion Kirkering that will, erase this, right? But this is going to be something he has to live with all offseason, and that Phillies fans are going to live with for forever until they win. And if they don't win anything with this group, then it will be forever.
Right.
And
you talked about baseball has a way of moments coming back around. They don't always happen with the same team, though.
No,
oftentimes, Brad Lidge, for example, like he was never really the same in Houston after that moment. Comes to the Phillies and eventually does turn his career around, and hopefully that's not John Cena driving by up there.
We always pick the worst time.
Find a spot in the stadium.
This stadium
is
cursed.
It's the trash.
It's the trash people pick it up. But before Kirkering, Kirkering happens in the bottom of the 11th. I want to go back to the bottom of the 7th. Phillies are leading 1-0 at that point, and Christopher Sanchez is back out there, and he had a strikeout. Was that Jay Hernandez that he had struck out?
I believe.
Whoever
it was an inside corner painted pitch that Mark Wapner missed, and he missed a few today. He also is the slowest strike caller in MLB history. It's painful to watch. But what I would say with that Sanchez strike is this was not like egregious. It was egregious because of the moment it took place. It was not like, oh my God, how can you? It was right down the middle. It was on the black. Yeah. So it was a fringe 50-50, and a year from now, you'll challenge and that'll go away.
Right. So that happens.
Yeah.
But that chases Sanchez from the game.
Right.
Because if Sanchez gets that strikeout, he probably finishes the 7th inning.
And who knows? He might come back out for the 8th.
He might. But I know that they were planning on going 2 innings for Duran, right? So that probably would have happened. Now you have to take Sanchez out because he then gives up a hit, so you got first and second, 1 out, and they go to Duran in that moment. Duran gets the first up and out, second and third. They intentionally walk Shohei Ohtani. Now,
the right decision.
Okay.
100 times out of 100, that's the right
because
decision.
Because of Shohei Ohtani, although he was going into that walk 1 for 17 with 9 strikeouts in this series. Phillies did a great job against Ohtani, but they walk him to get to Mookie Betts. Duran has never walked a batter with the bases loaded until today.
Yeah.
And he walks in the tying run. So that can't happen either. In reality, like you know that you're loading the bases, you can't get too fine. I know Mookie Betts is a great player, but you got to challenge him. You got to make your defense make it out behind.
In a way, it's a testament to the Dodgers that you walk maybe the greatest baseball player of all time. Definitely the right decision in my mind. And right behind him is a guy that is an inner circle Hall of Famer in Mookie Betts. That is one of the 10 best players in my lifetime, probably. And that's what makes the Dodgers so difficult. It's why they very well might go on to repeat as World Series champions. But you're right. A year ago, Carlos Estevez give up the bomb to Francisco Lindor, and even though Duran was not on the team then, I think there's a fear of having one of those moments if you're a reliever and you get too fine and he walks a guy. To his credit, he gets out of that inning, he comes back out for another inning, makes quick work. The Phillies pitching, as much as it was an all-time blunder by Orion Kirkering fielding-wise, the Phillies pitching did their job today. I think
did their job in the series.
And we'll get more to Rob Thompson from a macro sense in a minute, but he managed this game to me masterfully today. As he did yesterday as well.
Both. Absolutely.
And we were critical of decisions he made in those first two and how things appeared to be setting up for Game 3. Today was not a day where you look at it and say the manager blew it. Today's a day where you had whatever it was, 4 hits in 11 innings. You're not going to win games.
Well, that becomes the next point here that we got to talk about is, and I want to get to what Nick Castellanos said about it because it matters. This team, for another year, could not hit in the postseason. And the difference is, look, let's compare Arizona after Game 2 of 23, the 4 games against the Mets last year and the 4 games against the Dodgers this year. There is no question that what the Dodgers threw at the Phillies pitching-wise was far superior. Far superior.
It's not even in the same.
Than anything that they faced with the Diamondbacks and the Mets, right? So this was infinitely harder. That said, you got to score, man. I mean, they lost the 3 games they lose. They scored 7 runs in the 3 games. You got to score more than that. If you score 4 runs a game, you might have won this series. And the fact that they didn't, to me, that is where this really falls on. This really falls on these hitters, because game 1, they were swinging through strikes right in the zone. Game 2, they were chasing a little bit with Blake Snell. They hit yesterday in game 3, and then today, they made Tyler Glasnow look like he was a superstar. Roki Sasaki just blew them away. Absolutely. They weren't even competitive at bats. Like, just blew them away. Ultimately, it comes down to the lineup, and Nick Castellanos said something very, very interesting. He said the regular season and the postseason are 2 completely different animals. It doesn't matter how many wins we had in the regular season, and the team got better each of the last 4 years in the regular season, right? More wins each season. He says the playoffs, we regressed. We regressed every year, and that's damning, right? When somebody from within their own clubhouse is saying, we did not do what we need to do in the postseason. And that's where I think change has to happen with this team.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what that change necessarily is, though, where you're not a worse team next year. I mean...
Yeah, but what does worse team mean? So in other words, what if the Phillies next year are an 89-win team, but are still a playoff team, but they have a different look and feel about them, that they can...
Yeah, I mean...
manufacture some runs.
So what's the way you let Kyle Schwarber go and sign Alex Bregman? Like, is that maybe a way you do? I wouldn't do that.
No, I'm not saying that I would.
I watched Kyle Schwarber have hit one over the pavilion last night, hit 14 playoff home runs in 4 years. I get it. I mean, to some degree, though, to me, you need just better performance, specifically from Bryce Harper and Trey Turner, than you've gotten. I don't know what the future holds for Nick Castellanos. I don't know that he knows what the future holds for himself. JT did not want to talk about his future, and I'll probably look like an idiot on the internet for asking him about it. But I understand he didn't want to talk about it. It's my job to ask about it, so no harm there. But maybe you consider something different there. I don't know how you make a change there and aren't a worse team. Like maybe you try to trade for Adley Rutschman and revive his career, but you're giving up pieces, and Rutschman really hasn't been good for a year and a half. So I think Rafael Marchand's a good backup. He had problems staying healthy in the minors. I don't know that he's a guy you hand it over to. So I agree, and this is going to be the common sentiment over the next few days, that you need to shake the lineup up. I think maybe it ends up being more around the margins, though. Alec Boehm, Brandon Marsh, I think maybe you look more in that direction.
Could be. And Brandon Marsh had a rough series here. Rough series. And so maybe ultimately that's where you make a change, because you can really bolster the outfield. And we've talked about it in the past. I don't think they'll do it, but Bryce says it. Bryce is willing to go back to the outfield for a first baseman. I don't think they're going to do it either, but there's an option out there. If you want to go chase Pete Alonso to go into the middle of the lineup, you certainly could. So, and if you did that, maybe that supplements losing Schwarber, right? I mean, so there's a lot of different avenues that this team can go. We'll see where it is. I mean, there's a whole offseason ahead of us now. I think it's, 4 months until spring training, right? So we've got plenty of time to go through that. Another interesting thing that we talked about today, Tim, was Rob Thompson, and where he kind of fits into the future of the Phillies, because he's had 4 runs at it and just hasn't got the job done. Doesn't make him a bad manager, but it makes you wonder that,
is that where you make the change?
Is that where you make a change? Because if you can't make too many changes with the players, right? You got a lot of guys that are going to be back that are locked into contracts, and you do, maybe let's say you want to bring one or two of your free agents back. You're pretty much going to have a very similar team, 1 or 2 changes otherwise. Everyone's going to think, well, here we are running it back again. Maybe the changes at the manager's position, maybe that makes a difference.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen there. Like I said, if the Phillies had gotten swept and Game 3 was really ugly after they chose to use Nola, maybe this would have been a more obvious answer. I think Rob Thompson managed well in Games 3 and 4. After the game, Bryce Harper basically said, like, I love Topper, and deferred any of that to Dave Dombrowski. Trey Turner was pretty effusive in saying that he believes Rob Thompson is the right guy moving forward, and so we'll see. I don't know that there's a lot to consider. Like, Dave Dombrowski's never done a managerial search the entire time he's been the GM here. He inherited a coaching staff, made a change and brought in Thompson, who was someone he inherited. It worked like a charm as one of the great decisions in Phillies history to move on from Joe Girardi and go to Rob Thompson and save the season that you ended up in the World Series. But there was a point when Dave Dombrowski was in Detroit where Jim Leland basically tapped out. Now, maybe in hindsight, maybe it was framed as tapping out and they nudged him out. I don't know if that was the case. But I remember Jim Leland giving a quote at that time essentially saying it's time for somebody different. And maybe Rob Thompson does that. This was somebody that was going to retire after the 2022 season before he got promoted to manager. Maybe they have a conversation. They just mutually, as much as anything's ever mutual like that, they decide to go in a different direction. I think it's a good thing to get some space. Like, I don't think that tomorrow the Phillies should make a final decision on that, unless Rob just decides he doesn't want to come back. But in terms of if the decision is left up to Dave Dombrowski and John Milton, like, I don't think it's a tomorrow decision. I think it's maybe like even after the World Series. I don't know, but it's not an easy discussion in my mind. I think it's going to get framed as a black or white decision, and I don't think it is that.
Yeah, and Rob was asked about this in his press conference, and first thing he said was, he says, first of all, the team's going to be in great shape. It's still going to be a competitor. It's still going to have a shot every year, mostly because he said John Middleton's going to spend money because he wants to win, right? So, like, that's number one, first and foremost. But then when he was asked specifically about his own personal job, he said he didn't want to discuss it. He said he's not worried about his job because he said he had 60 people, I think he's talking about the team and the staff and everything, that are heartbroken right now. Yeah. And then he said, that's what I'm worried about right now. I'm not worried about my job. That's how he answered that question. He left it open, and so when you hear that, when a manager doesn't come out right away and say, oh yeah, I expect to be here next year, or I'll leave that up to management, but I'm looking forward to getting back at it in February, whatever. When he kind of just left that door open, it made me think that Rob has a thought that this might have been it.
That may be true, and I'm not saying it's not true. I have heard Rob give similar answers to that in the past, like talking about how I've always worked on one-year contracts. I don't worry about job security. Like, I think he is genuine when he says it's not what I'm focused on right now, that I'm focused on a team of guys that are heartbroken because for the fourth straight year they had a very good regular season and came up short in the playoffs. And what I would say is, if they do make a change, I don't know if it would be somebody internal gets promoted, somebody external gets brought in, but if you're expecting them to get rid of Rob Thompson and bring in some hard ass, I don't think that's going to happen. That's not how teams are run today. Right or wrong, that's not how. Nobody likes to go get screamed at their job.
Right.
So it's not how the world works beyond sports anymore, at least successful franchises. So if that's what you're looking for, even if they do make a change, I think you're going to be disappointed. But I think they're going to get some space and decide how to proceed. All parties decide how to proceed, and then they have a lot of decisions to make. Like the last few off seasons, there's been like one or two decisions. They did sign Trey Turner, that's a massive move. But there's two types of off seasons. There's off seasons where you're talking about adding, and off seasons where you're trying to hold serve. And this one is kind of one where the Phillies are caught in between. 5 years ago, when JT Realmuto was a free agent, it was a slam dunk, no doubt. You had to have him back. Now, I mean, I think you probably bring him back, but I don't know that it's certainly not as certain as it was 5 years ago. I think it is a slam dunk to bring Kyle Schwarber back, but we'll see how that ultimately plays out.
He was emotional when asked about it.
He was,
right? I mean, that makes me think a little bit differently. Not to say that it's definite. I'm not sitting here telling you that, Kyle Schwarber won't be back. I have no knowledge of that. But just a human emotion, like reading emotions and understanding, like he's not that kind of guy.
No.
Kyle's never been that kind of guy to kind of show that emotion to us. And in that moment, to get emotional, makes you sit there and say to yourself, is he thinking this was my last ride here? I'm just throwing that out there.
My guess is,
right?
if anything, it's just the uncertainty. The uncertainty, even if he's back, what does it look like around him? Is it a different coaching staff? Is it the same coaching staff with a different manager? Is it a different catcher? I mean, Ranger Suarez is a free agent. That's I don't. If you made me guess one way or another, I think Ranger Suarez has probably pitched his last game for the Phillies. But damn, you watched what he did in Game 3. That guy walks out the door like there's no replacing that. It may be the right long-term decision. I think there's fair questions about how he's going to hold up with some of the velocity dips you've seen. But there's not a lot of guys in the league that can just come in any different role, thrive as a starter, thrive as a reliever. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered this offseason.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, when you look at it, like, you know who's back. Harper's back. Trey Turner's back. Stott's probably back.
I think, yeah.
Right?
100%.
I mean, I think that's pretty fair that he'll be here. Beyond that, positionally, though,
yeah, it's the first time in years you're not sure.
You're not sure,
Does
right?
Nick Castellanos want to come back if he's not guaranteed a starting role?
Yeah.
Alec Boehm, I saw the arbitration projection on MLB Trade Rumors the other day, is $10.5 million. They're certainly not going to non-tender him, but do they consider moving him? There's a lot of questions, and some of this is going to hinge on there needs to be a next wave. It's been talked about for years, and I think the franchise is in significantly a better spot under Preston Mattingly. Now he's been promoted, but since he took over the farm system, you're about to see some of the fruits of that labor with Crawford and Andrew Painter and Aiden Miller. You need some of those guys to step up because you have a lot of guys at or approaching their mid-30s. You have Harrison Bader's a free agent. You don't know.
I'd love to bring him back.
Yeah, but I think you're talking at least 2 years.
Yeah, I would offer the guy 3 years. 2 years, you're going to sit there and say to him, well, and when you're talking to him, this is not for public knowledge, but you say, hey, you're our center fielder for 2 years. Third year, we might move you over. But for 2 years, you're center fielder. Yeah. And I think he, if you offer him the right package, he loved it here. The players loved him. I think he's a good fit. Whether or not they go that route, we'll see. But and yes, he has a mutual option, but usually
he's declined.
Mutual options never are picked up by both sides.
I would bet my life savings, which isn't much because I work in sports media, that Harrison Bader will decline that option because he will get at least that much annually and he'll get multiple years. So in any event, there is a lot to consider here, and we will be with you guys throughout the offseason, both on the site and here on Phillies Stoplight. But for now, from Dodger Stadium,
Thanks, Wapner Newman.
Thank you, Wapner Newman. Hope you guys stick with us as well, and we will talk to you guys next time.